Hi everyone, welcome back to Cardvoyant. I'm Kris and I'm your Cardvoyant, and I'm coming to you today, or my voice is coming to you today and my picture is coming to you today, with another excerpt from an actual reading. This is fairly short and it has a little bit of a combination of things that I thought would be interesting. This client had asked about their feeling toward authority and authority figures and the difficulty in dealing with them, and asked if problems with that in this life had to do with past lives. So you can see here a little bit, or hear here a little bit of what a past life reading sounds like. They're not all exactly like this, but this is pretty indicative of what a past life reading is like, albeit incorporated with a regular reading, which often happens, and you can do with a reading with me. Sometimes people want just a past life reading, but it almost always relates to something in this lifetime, and so we talk about that. More often, people are interested in many things in their present life, and they'll say, if there's past life information, I'd be interested in knowing that as well. So that's what this is. It talks a little bit about authority, our lifetimes, and achieving happiness. This client was and is on the verge of retirement, and so was asking about some of those things as well, which you'll also hear in the reading. I've actually edited this information down a little bit. You'll hear me mention 3 past lives, and in the actual reading or the full reading, I talk about each of those past lives, but for this context, I just am talking about the first past life in the interest of time. So with that, here is the reading, and I hope you enjoy it. You've had several lives. They're saying 3, and this is like there was like a life right before this one that wasn't so much that way, but these 3 are the 3 prior to that. And in each of those, you had a figure like this, some sort of authority who really had their thumb on you, really dictated how your life was run. One, and this is that one I was talking about, a childhood, it feels like you were maybe an orphan, because I see you in some sort of institution, whether it's an orphanage or it actually feels almost like a convent or something like that, where they took in parentless children, or sometimes children whose parents couldn't take care of them. Oh, that's what it is. It's some sort of welfare house, like parents couldn't take care of their kids, so they send them, almost like a workhouse, but it's more like they certainly did put you to work, all the kids, but it's more like a poorhouse, but it was just kids. So some may have been orphans, but others were more like wards of the state. That's what it's like. You were wards of the state. Every minute of your day was absolutely controlled, and much of it was spent working. And when you weren't working, you were still controlled, and it was almost some of these people that worked there were almost sadistic, especially this one person who I feel is male, but it may have just been, maybe it comes across that way because a very domineering, very sort of angry spirit feeling for this person. You and every child in there, and there were a lot of ages. I mean, it was probably maybe from 4 or 5 to early teens. It's like you're watched all the time, and very little ability to sort of fraternize or, have friends. It was a lot of, shut up and listen, or shut up and do this. Don't get don't be silly, don't have, giggly, don't, it was just sort of, it was very dour, very dour. There was a lot of sickness there because you weren't well fed, it was cold. This feels very, it feels very Dickensian, so then you might think, oh, well, England, but for some reason, they're saying Dutch, that kind of area. Friendships were certainly discouraged, and people that you did interact with were often controlling you in some way. They were your sort of keepers. And even if they didn't want to, like maybe the older children, they were tasked with making sure you did such and such a thing. I think you were female, and I also think that you were a little bit very meek and maybe a little bit sickly. And I was going to say they kind of didn't want to bother with you, or like you were just a pain because you couldn't do everything that was expected of you. But the truth is they treated everybody like that, the people who ran this place. And kids who were raised there for several years became kind of this way too. The idea was to give you, to make you work and then just send you out into the world where you would just continue to work. Not really semi-skilled, especially for like the girls, because you were scrubbing floors and, making things that they, like for people, I don't know if they sold them or they just, I don't know what this is, but some sort of almost like factory work, but it feels almost, well, it wasn't factory work, but it was something like that, what they're showing me is like stitching up something, but it's hand by hand. There was no like kind interaction. There were no friendships really, because they just weren't allowed. You were like little robots, but worse because you were human, and so they couldn't make you into robots even though they tried. You died very young. I would say around 11, because of. It almost feels like something that happened after a beating, whether you were sick or something, or you got injured, or maybe you were sick and then you got in trouble or something, and it just sort of escalates. And although a doctor may have been called, it's more likely, I think, that maybe they had somebody look at you, but it was like just like sort of a staff member, oh, go check on her. But there was no real aid given to you. It's almost as if coming into this lifetime with trying to reconcile some of that lifetime, it's almost like coming into this lifetime as socially awkward in some ways, because you weren't able to live out that lifetime and have a chance to reconcile it in the physical world. So of course it's natural. This is kind of what they talk, what karma is, that ability to reconcile a life. Now we try and do that in the physical world. That's another parallel to this life. That's kind of what is happening now. Something that you have the ability to do in this second part of your life. And I'm not saying there's nothing like this, but it is that idea of having an opportunity to live a life truer to your soul self. And that lifetime, you never had that opportunity. Now in that lifetime, had you been able to live to be 80 or something like that, you may have had children of your own. You may have had different kinds of relationships where you learned what it was like to love someone, or to be a friend, or to be kind, or to show consideration to, right? Those things may have evolved and you would have reconciled much of this life, but you didn't have that opportunity. And going into that life, as we always do, you knew that was a possibility. You knew sort of the circumstances you were being born into, and that that this outcome was very much a possibility, but you were eager to learn things, and you learned a lot in that lifetime, but it was cut short. That was something else that was a possibility. Whether it was a probability or not, I'm not sure. But part of what you're doing in this lifetime, or part of the lingering of that lifetime, is this desire to, and now ability to, reconcile some of that learning process where you grow in a lifetime. And then in the ways that you grow allow you to sort of change your life or grow in your life, to sort of rise to a higher place in your life, just like the Six of Swords card is talking about. And that's why you get this final card. It's interesting because just thinking about what I was saying about those lives, you can see how this Five of Wands could relate to that. I mean, 5 cards, always challenging, right? And here you have this mini battle here with these boys on the card, and they've all got wands, and they're sort of battling each other. But it's not like a war; it's like a skirmish, right? Ongoing though, and this is how these lives felt. Like you were always sort of battling something, always trying to have to keep up your guard. This isn't a battle, as you can see in the card, where blood is drawn. It's more, this is a feeling thing, right? I mean, these are Wands cards, so they're very much about that kind of energy that we create and that others create around us. But this also has to do with now, in that you sort of do this on the inside sometimes, this battling of within yourself, trying to figure people out or figure things out, or sometimes it's even purposely trying to figure out how to avoid certain people or what to say. But there's a lot of a feeling of how to discern who they really are. And you sort of go back and forth like this internal little skirmish within yourself, trying to determine who they really are, how to react to them, how they're reacting to you, what's real. That's what it feels like. This second half of your life, it's really an opportunity to also, they say, let down a lot of defenses. Because I don't know if you have worked with older people, or you kind of would like to work with older people, but they're showing me like elderly people, and they want you to understand that as you age, your defenses and your masks and your ability to hide who you truly are, and your desire to hide who you truly are, begins to fall away. And we get to the point where it's gone completely. And we live our truest selves. We become our truest selves. Sometimes our soul selves, something that was too vulnerable to let, that we felt too vulnerable about to let into the world when we were living our sort of day-to-day, got to get up and face the world kind of life. But in old age, especially extreme old age, these are dissolved for us on our behalf, because it's a reconciliation. And honestly, that's a gift that you didn't have in that one lifetime, and you do have in this lifetime. They want you so much to understand how much you are loved, and how much they encourage you to embrace everything and everyone that makes you happy. Because when you're in that sort of happiness groove, when you sort of are in that mode of feeling happy and being living a life that feels like that you anticipate with happiness, that feels exciting and interesting, sometimes challenging, but sometimes we love a good challenge. When you're living that life, that naturally leads you to your most authentic self, your truest self, your higher self, your soul self. So in moving forward, in thinking about these things, what you want to be, even where you want to be. Because when you are in that groove, to finish that thought, in that happiness state, you bring more of it to you. It's the whole idea of like attracts like, which is the truest statement in the universe. You know, when you're in that place of loving your life, loving yourself, loving what you're doing, even liking it immensely and moving toward love, trying out because you're excited about it, you bring more of it to you. So even things that may not completely work out, it's fine if you're doing them for this happiness, good feeling, positive place where it's coming from. It's fine, because you, in just being in that state, will bring more of it to you, bring more opportunity to you, more chances to feel more of that feeling. And you've had lifetimes where you were denied that opportunity to find that, to bring more of those feelings to you. And in this lifetime, you have it totally. You have the opportunity to do that. So it takes introspection. It takes faith in yourself. It takes telling yourself that it's okay to do what you want. But it's not only possible, it's what's meant for you. To sort of move into this, I get to do this. I get to try that. I want to be here. I want to, even if it's something that the rest of the world may have mocked or may have it didn't make sense to people, or that you felt you couldn't do for many reasons, that's okay. Don't judge those, just like the judgment card, right? Rise to them, embrace them if you feel like they're going to make you happy or bring you joy or are just interesting. And more of it comes to you, and you do find that place of balance in love, right? To make your life balanced, to bring about a fuller sense of happiness that achieves over an entire lifetime this balance in like love and light and growth and understanding. It's a very beautiful opportunity that you have, and they want me to say again, like this Nine of Pentacles, because you've built toward this in your lifetime. So there's, like I said, there's a lot of patting on the back, saying like, job well done. And this is kind of a reward, this next half of your life. Let down a lot of defenses and embrace sort of everything that you are and everything that you want to be, because they want that for you. It doesn't make you vulnerable, it makes you stronger. It makes you less vulnerable to when you live in your sort of authentic self and in this state of happiness with who you are and what you're doing and where you are and who you're doing these things with. So there you have it. I hope that this was interesting to you, that it made some sense to you, that perhaps it was enlightening for you. Again, if you'd like a reading, you can contact me at cardvoyant.com, and you can always email me at chris@cardvoyant.com. So until next time, please take care of yourself, please take care of others, and bye for now.